to ask for help. And that's okay. I think the best thing we can do is to let people know, that each one of them is precious.
Hi everyone, Vegas from Critic here, Jeffrey Gayard, here to review A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood starring Tom Hanks, Matthew Rhys, and directed by Marielle Heller. Hope I'm saying your name right. I'm Generation X, so I watched Mr. Rogers when I was 4 or 5 years old. I watched Electric Company. I watched Sesame Street, which is enjoying its 50th anniversary. And Mr. Rogers was my life as a little boy. I'm going to admit this. And to this day, I still remember the Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood song. I remember It's a Good Feeling, the closing song. I remember all of that. And I just loved the trolley and going into the land of make-believe. I mean, I can't tell you how Mr. Rogers touched my life as a little boy growing up. And so I saw the documentary, you know, a couple of years ago, and all about Fred Rogers, about how the show was developed, all that. So it was a fantastic documentary. Won't You Be My Neighbor was just brilliant. So I thought going into this movie, which I'm like, what, we're going to do this again with Tom Hanks? We just had an incredible documentary. And talk about a movie that is not what you expect. This is not about Mr. Rogers' life. It's not about how he created the puppets in the show and all of that. Even though those elements are in the movie, it is about the relationship of him and journalist Tom Juneau. And in this movie, he's represented by not Lloyd Braun, that's Seinfeld. I kept saying that. What's his name? Lloyd Vogel, played by Matthew Rhys. And he was assigned to do a hero article by Esquire magazine in 1998, something like 400 words. And his reputation was he was not easy to get along with. And he wrote pieces that weren't very flattering, investigative, all kinds of things. So here he is going to interview Mr. Rogers, totally cynical. So when he arrives on Mr. Rogers' set and he wants to interview him and everything, Mr. Rogers starts to, I don't know what the best word is, psychoanalyze him, and starts feeling his pain because Lloyd Vogel has gone through some really tremendous pain with his father, played by Chris Cooper. So he's held a lifetime of resentment, a lifetime of just really harboring bad feelings. It's affecting his marriage and his newborn baby, and Mr. Rogers, every time he sees him, not only just interviews him, but becomes his friend, wants to come to his house, wants to know about his life, he wants to know everything about him, takes pictures with him, takes pictures of everyone he meets so he can show his wife and say, look, I met Lloyd Vogel today. And what's really fascinating about this, Marielle Heller, the director, booked in this movie like an episode of Mr. Rogers. So the movie opens up with a picture board, and he opens a little advent calendar and says, this is Lloyd Vogel. I want you to meet my friend. He's having some trouble. So we go through this whole movie like a 2-hour episode of Mr. Rogers. Tom Hanks is phenomenal in this. You think that he's going to mock kind of Mr. Rogers and his delivery and all that. It all works. It all absolutely works because he's not in the movie that much. It's not about Mr. Rogers. It's just the dynamic with it. If it was 2 hours of Tom Hanks being Mr. Rogers, yeah, it would just kind of fall flat. It wouldn't work. But this movie works. Had me in tears, had me reminiscing about my childhood. And yes, I did sing the song at the end, because when I was a kid, when he did Snappy, I lost it. I was the kid when he came on TV. I put on my dad's cardigan sweater that was hanging up. I put my dad's shoes on and I flipped them through the air. I did all of that. So this movie was made for me and I loved it. One of my favorite films of the year. If you love Mr. Rogers, if you know this history, if you grew up with him, you're going to love this movie too. Also, check out my YouTube page because my interview with the original Tom Juneau, with the actual reporter, and Bill Eisler, Mr. Rogers' manager, best friend, and business partner for many, many decades. I have an interview with both of them on my YouTube page, so make sure you check that out. Wonderful film. You're just going to love it. You really are. All right, for more reviews and interviews, just surf on over to my website at vegasfilmcritic.com. Make sure you check me out on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and also if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, comment below. What did you think of A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood? I'm Jeffrey Gayard in Las Vegas. Thank you for joining me. Thanks, friend. See you next time.